Hi all, welcome to CSEC Biology with Mr. Charles. Today we are looking at the May-June 2012 multiple choice past paper. Let's look at question 1. Which of the following is the correct sequence of feeding relationships in a food chain? The answer here is B, producer, herbivore, carnivore, and top carnivore. Okay, number 2, which of the following are involved in the cycling of nutrients in nature? So we have as part of the list bacteria, plants, earthworms, and humans. All of them are involved in the cycling of nutrients, okay, because all of them are able to carry out respiration, and because of that they return carbon in the form of carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere. Okay, good. Let's look at number 3. Item 3 refers to the following list: number of legs, body temperature, shape of body, type of body covering. The dead remains of a previously unknown animal are found in a forest. Which of the features listed above could be used to classify the animal? Okay, so the answer here is C. You could use the number of legs of the animal, right? Because it could be a bird as well as it could be a four-footed animal. You could use the shape of the body as well as the type of body covering. Okay, so the answer there is C. Number 4. Item 4 refers to the following. Item 4 refers to the relationships between the following pairs of organisms: barnacles on a shark's back, shark and man, man and malaria protozoan. Which of the following correctly identifies these relationships? So the answer here is B, because the barnacles on the shark back, that's a commensalistic relationship. Okay, because the shark does not benefit from the relationship, neither is it harmed. Okay, however, the barnacles would feed on scraps of material suspended in the water as it takes a ride on the shark's back. So that's commensalism, right? One organism benefit and the other does not benefit, neither is it harmed. The shark and man, that's a predator-prey relationship, and the man and the malaria protozoan, that's a parasitic relationship. So the answer here is B. Let's look at number 5. Okay, number 5. Which of the following statements about a food chain is true? Okay, so the answer here is A. Energy from the sun is transferred from one organism to subsequent organisms. Okay, that's the answer there. Number 6. Which of the following is not true about decomposers? Okay, decomposers do not favor low temperatures. Low temperatures are cold environments. Okay, and decomposers flourish and they favor at warm temperatures. Okay, so B is the answer there. Number 7. Which of the following organelles is the site of aerobic respiration? Okay, so the aerobic respiration occurs in the mitochondrion of the cell. Okay, the powerhouse of the cell as a mitochondrion. So the answer for number 7 is D. Okay, let's look at number 8. Item 8 refers to the following diagram of a typical plant cell. Which of the labeled parts is not found in an animal cell? So anytime you see those curly lines inside of the organelle, that's a mitochondria. So one is a mitochondria, right? The lines inside here is representative of the chloroplast, and the dots is representative of the nucleus. So the answer here is II. Okay, that's a chloroplast. Animal cells do not have chloroplast. Okay, so it is B. Let's look at number 9. Plants do not burst when placed in water because The answer is B. Okay, plants are surrounded by a rigid cell wall, a cellulose cell wall, and that prevents them from undergoing cytolysis or from rupturing, okay, as opposed to animal cells. Right, so the answer for number 9 is B. Plant cells do not burst when placed in water because they are surrounded by a rigid cellulose cell wall. Right? Well, they do not say rigid here, but the cellulose cell wall is very rigid. Right? It adds strength to the cell. That's why it's hard to burst. Okay? So we see that the plant cell is able to resist tug or pressure. Okay? Number 10. Which of the following combinations correctly shows a gas that is a raw material and a gas that is a product of photosynthesis? So the raw material, remember photosynthesis, carbon dioxide combines with water to give you glucose and oxygen in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. So the raw material, the gas that's the raw material is carbon dioxide, and the product would be oxygen, right? So the answer here is A. Number 11. Which of the following are not autotrophs? Okay, you have algae, mosses, ferns, and fungi. Okay, so the answer here is D. Fungi are heterotrophs. They are not autotrophs. Okay, right. Number 12. Which of the following occurs as a result of a deficiency of nitrogen in plants? Okay, you have yellowing of the older leaves of the plant. That's not true, okay, because older leaves, right, the yellowing of the older leaves of the plant is a part of excretion in the plant. Okay, so that's not the answer there. Okay, greater susceptibility to disease and insect attacks. That's not true. D. Dark green overly vigorous foliage leading to reduced yield. No, that's not a result of nitrogen deficiency. So the answer here is B. Okay, stunted chlorotic plants with reduced yield. Okay, let's look at number 13. Item 13 refers to the table below, which shows the observations when a food was tested using different reagents. So the iodine test was done, and a blue-black color was observed, and that is indicative of the presence of starch. Then sodium hydroxide and copper sulfate, the biuret reagent, was used to test the food sample, and a purple color was observed, and that's a test for protein, the presence of protein. Okay, once you use sodium hydroxide and copper sulfate, the biuret reagent, and you get a purple color or a mauve or lilac color, that is indicative of the presence of the peptide bond. Okay, which is a bond that connects the amino acids of a protein molecule. Then it also says here that the Benedict's or the Fellings solution was heated, okay, with the sample. Okay, and that test is done for the presence of reducing sugars. So if you get no color change, it means that reducing sugar is not present. And well, I should not have put complex sugar there, right? But most of the time it's indicative of the presence of non-reducing sugar. Okay, or the absence of reducing sugar, I should say. So let me write that instead. Right, absence of reducing sugar, because just because reducing sugars are not present, it does not mean non-reducing sugars are present. Okay, the food sample may not have carbohydrates at all. Okay, so it's just indicative of the absence of reducing sugars. Okay, if reducing sugars were present, you would have get an orange or brick red precipitate. So the question says that the food most likely contains, it would have to be starch and protein only. Okay, because the other options So it says B, reducing sugar and such only. There is no reducing sugar, so B and C are not part of the answer. And protein, fat, and non-reducing sugar, okay, there is no statement of the test for fat up here. Okay, so the answer has to be A, starch and protein only. Alright, let us look at question 14. Which of the following options is a function of hydrochloric acid in the stomach? Now, in the stomach, hydrochloric acid functions to create a medium that is appropriate for pepsin to digest proteins. So the answer here would have to be D, providing a medium for pepsin. Okay, all right, that's the answer there. Emulsification of fat occurs due to the action of bile in the duodenum of the small intestine. Starch is broken down to maltose in the mouth, okay, and hydrolyzing complex sugars, right? That's sugars are carbohydrates, and carbohydrate digestion does not occur in the stomach. Okay, carbohydrate digestion occurs in the mouth and the small intestine. Let's look at number 15. Item 15 refers to the following apparatus used in an investigation. Right, so you have a thermometer there, you have a dry cotton plug, you have a metal container, some soaked red beans on the inside with damp cotton wool beneath. Okay, the initial temperature of the beans was noted and the readings were taken at regular intervals twice daily for 4 days. The data obtained were used to plot the graph below. Okay, this is a graph, temperature on the y-axis, time in hours on the x-axis. Okay, the increase in temperature in the vessel is best explained by the fact that seeds are carrying the respiration, right? And respiration produces or generates heat. Okay, and respiration needs two things mainly, right? It needs glucose and it needs oxygen. So let's see what the option says. Because the seeds are numerous, no. Taking in water, no. They're taking water to activate the enzymes inside the seed. Placed close together, that's not correct. Using their food stools, that's true, right? Because they are using their food stools, right, to carry out respiration so that energy can be generated for germination to take place. Alright, so the answer here is D. Let's look at number 16. Which of the following is not a reason for placing green plants in an aquarium? The answer here is C. You do not place green plants in an aquarium to remove chlorine from the water, right? Plants are not capable of doing that. Number 17. Which of the following characteristics is not a feature of respiratory surfaces? So they all must have a large surface area, they must be permanently moist, they must have a good blood supply in the case of mammals, but the membrane needs to be thin. Okay, so they cannot have a thick membrane, right? The membrane needs to be one cell thick so that gases can diffuse as quickly as possible. Alright, number 18, the reactants in aerobic respiration are, that would have to be glucose and oxygen. Okay, glucose reacts with oxygen in the presence of enzymes in the mitochondrion to release carbon dioxide and water. Okay, good. Number 19, an amoeba obtains all the oxygen it needs by diffusion via its cell membrane, while a human needs to have special respiratory surfaces for this purpose. The best reason for this difference is that the answer here is D. A human surface area to volume ratio is too small to be effective, okay, at such simple diffusion. Alright, let us look at number 20. Which of the following features is most responsible for the efficient uptake of oxygen by red blood cells. Okay, the reason why they're able to efficiently take up oxygen is because they have a large surface area due to their disc shape. Okay, so the answer is D. Let us look at number 21. Which of the following plants do not have a modified vegetative storage organ? A. Carrot, B. Ginger, C. Mango, and D. Potato. The answer here is mango. Okay, do not have a modified vegetative storage organ. Number 22. Mineral salts in plants are transported mainly through. And the answer is D. Xylem vessels. Okay. Number 23. Which of the following is not a form of excretion in plants? Okay, water vapor diffusing through the epidermis, that's transpiration, that's not excretion. So the answer here is C. And number 24, which of the following is not an excretory product in humans? Okay, undigested food is not an excretory product. Okay, that's an egested product. Okay, so the answer for 24 here is C, undigested food. Okay. Items 25 to 26 refer to the following diagram of a mammalian kidney. Right, so we have parts labeled I to IV. So I is the cortex of the kidney, IV is the medulla. Sorry, II is the medulla, III. Okay, that's the pelvis, and IV is the kidney itself. Good. So in which part of the kidney is the loop of Henle located? That would be the medulla, right? II. So that's B. Into which structure is urine emptied? Urine is emptied into the pelvis. Okay, all the collecting ducts would empty urine into the pelvis. Okay, and so that is III, part 3. Good. Number 27. Item 27 refers to the following diagrams. Okay, A, B, C, and D. Which of the muscle bone attachments shown above is accurate? Okay, so the answer here is B, because this tricep here must attach to the ulna, so that when the tricep contracts, it would pull on the ulna and extend the arm. And the bicep must attach to the radius, this region of the radius, and pull that bone right in that direction. Okay, in this direction, so that the forearm can be flexed. Okay, so the answer here is B. Let's look at number 28. The main function of cartilage at the end of long bones is, okay, that would be to reduce friction. Okay, lubricating the joints would be the function of the synovial fluid. Okay, so C is the answer, to reduce friction. Number 29. Movement is important to the survival of a plant because it ensures that, okay, so we have, it can find food, grows towards light, grows towards water, and can respire. Okay, so plant shoots grows towards light, and plant roots grows towards water and gravity. So 2 and 3 are the answers, so that would be C. Okay, I and I. Good. So that's 29. 29 is C. Number 30. Item 30 refers to the following diagram of a vertebra. Okay, so that's the diagram here. Notice we have a large centrum and a small central canal where the spinal cord would pass. Okay, the large centrum is to withstand the weight of the body of the the small central canal, okay, that is appropriate because in this region of the vertebral column the spinal cord kind of thins out. So what type of vertebra is shown above? That would have to be a lumbar vertebra. Okay, the lumbar vertebra. Item 31 refers to the following sequence of events that occur when a student reacts to touching a hot object by withdrawing her hand. So you have the hot object, pain is detected, then the effector, and you have a response. So the receptor here is the sensory endings in the skin. Okay, so the sensory nerve endings in the skin would detect the pain, right, due to heat, and send an impulse to the central nervous system, and as a result a response would be sent to an effector, which is the muscles of the arm, so that she can pull away her hand. Okay, number 32. Item 32 refers to the following results of an investigation of how woodlice respond to light and moisture. The results show the number of woodlice that moved to varying conditions, okay, light, dark, moist, and dry. So these are what you call choice chambers, okay, choice chambers, right? That's an experiment to determine invertebrate response to different conditions. Okay, so here you have this chamber would be light, dark. So 2 woodlice occupied the lit environment and 8 were in the dark. So they prefer the dark. They also prefer the moist environment. Okay, and you had light and dry, so they did not prefer light and dry, but they prefer dark and moist. So the above responses are important to the woodlice in order to, and the answer would have to do with dehydration. Okay, they prefer dark and moist environment to prevent them from becoming dehydrated, so the answer here is B. Okay, ensure that they do not become dehydrated. Number 33, which of the following control the amount of light that enters the eye? So you have the radial muscles of the iris, the circular muscles of the iris, the ciliary muscles associated with the lens. Okay, so the amount of light entering the eye is controlled by the iris muscle. Okay, and iris muscle have circular and radial components, and the iris controls the opening and closing of the pupil, okay, which is a hole in the middle of the eye. So the answer here is 1 and 2. Okay, the ciliary muscles have nothing to do with the amount of light entering the eye, but it has to do with the bending of light rays. Okay, so the answer here is A, 1 and 2. Radial muscles of the iris and circular muscles of the iris. Right. Number 34. Which of the following diagrams correctly represents the pathway of the transmission of an impulse for a spinal reflex? So look at the arrows, okay, and you also need to look at this structure here, this bulge. This here would represent a sensory neuron. Okay, this one would be a motor neuron, and in the middle you would have a relay neuron. Okay, so the arrows is telling you that this is the receptor. Okay, receptor. The arrow is going from the receptor. Let me write it properly. From the receptor along the sensory nerve cell, and then it's synapses here with a relay neuron. But look at this arrow here. This arrow here is telling that the signal is going that way, and so for this to be correct, it's supposed to go, okay, it starts off correctly, so it's going in that direction, then it's supposed to continue in one direction. Okay, so it's supposed to be a unidirectional movement of impulse. So A cannot be the answer, right? And it must go from receptor to effector. This is the receptor, so this arrow here gives it out. This B cannot be the answer. Okay, D cannot be the answer as well, because look at the direction of the arrow. It's going that way from effector to receptor, and that cannot happen. The impulse have to go from receptor to effector. Okay, so the answer here is C. Okay, good. 35. Which hormone causes a person to show superhuman or enhanced strength in an emergency situation? Okay, that would be adrenaline. Adrenaline, and we all know about adrenaline, so I'm not gonna waste time on that. Number 36. Which of the following functions of the skin is an example of homeostasis? Okay, storage of fat, release of sweat, secretion of sebum. Okay, sebum is the oily substance that is produced from our sebaceous gland in our skin that cause our skin to have its natural oils and so forth. And the maintenance of body temperature, right? So homeostasis ensures that body temperature is maintained at around 37 degrees Celsius. So the maintenance of body temperature is an example of homeostasis. Okay, all right. Item 37 refers to the following simple experiment carried out by a student to investigate growth in corn seedlings. After 3 days, the results were as follows. So you have some numbers here. Okay, so what is the average change in height in centimeters of the corn seedlings during the 3 days? So the average is very easy to calculate. The average, you add up all the heights in centimeters and then you divide by the number of plants that are represented here. Okay, so you have 10 plants or 10 corn seedlings, and you have to take the height of each of them, add them together. So the sum of the heights, alright, the sum of the change in height in centimeter is 22.5 centimeter, and then there are 10 seedlings, so 22.5 divided by 10 would give you 2.25. okay, just move the point to the left because you're dividing by 10, one place to the left. Good, so your answer is 2.25 centimeters. So the answer for 37 is B. Okay, 2.25. Item 38 refers to the following diagram, which shows the growth of a plant after a few days in sunlight. Okay, the stem at Q grows upward because the answer here is auxin accumulated on the lower side of the shoot. Okay, so the light is in that direction, so this would be light here. Okay, and as the light shines on the shoot, the auxin in the upper region is broken down. So the auxin in the upper region is broken down, so you have accumulation of auxin below. Okay, so that is because you have more auxin on the lower end of the shoot, right? You would have more growth on the lower end, causing the shoot to bend upwards. Okay, let us look at number 39. Which of the following sequences of events is correct? Okay, so fertilization occurs before implantation, that's correct, but that does not happen before copulation. Copulation is just another word for the scientific word for sexual intercourse. Okay, so A is definitely wrong, right? Again, you cannot have copulation last. You must have copulation first. So copulation, fertilization, implantation, then gestation. Okay, so that's the correct answer there. Okay, because you cannot have implantation before fertilization. Good. So the answer for 39 is C. Number 40. The reproduction of amoeba by binary fission is an example of asexual reproduction because, okay, the answer here is 2 offspring are produced by one parent. Okay, 2 offspring are produced by one parent. Okay, that's asexual reproduction. So the offspring will look identical to the parents. And binary fission, one cell splits into 2 exact copies. So the answer here for Number 40 is A. Number 41. Which of the following involves the process of asexual reproduction? Okay, so asexual reproduction, so it's not B. Insect pollination is sexual reproduction. Wind pollination is also sexual reproduction, because you're pollinating. It involves pollen grains and ovules. Okay, so that's male and female gametes. The pollen grain contain the male gamete, and the ovule contain the female gamete. All right. Artificial insemination is also not the answer. Okay, so our answer here would be vegetative propagation. Okay, vegetative propagation, that's asexual reproduction. Item 42 refers to the following diagram. Okay, and the question says the most appropriate heading for this diagram is A. Fertilization, B. Ovulation, C. Pollination, and D. Reproduction. Okay, yes, it's part of reproduction, but it's more appropriately called the pollination. Right, as you can see here, you have three pollen grains on the stigma, and you start having the growth of the pollen tube here to meet down the style to meet the ovule in the ovary. Okay, so that's the answer here, C. Okay, let us look at number 43. Which of the following comparisons of the male and the female reproductive systems is incorrect? The answer here is B. Glands and uterus. Okay, that's not correctly compared. Okay, you cannot compare the glands of the male reproductive system to the uterus of the female reproductive system. Alright. 44. Contraception is used primarily. Okay, contraception, you're talking about birth control. Okay, and that these are used to limit the size of families. Okay, so that's A. Okay, number 45. Which of the following statements confirms that a coconut is a fruit? All fruits must have a 3-layered pericarp, and that would be the exocarp, the mesocarp, and the endocarp. So the answer here is D. Okay, it has a 3-layered pericarp. Okay, number 46. As a result of mitosis, each daughter cell, okay, the answer would be B. Each daughter cell would have the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. Okay, and the number 47 says, in which of the following does meiosis occur? Meiosis occurs in reproductive cells, so that would be the testes of a mammal. Okay, that's where sperm is produced. So the answer for 47 is C. Okay, let's look at number 48. Item 48 refers to the following table below, which shows the number of brown and green grasshoppers found in equal areas of dry and green grass respectively. Okay, so the table here, you have 19 grasshoppers, brown grasshoppers, okay, in dry grass. Okay, you have 8 brown grasshoppers in green grass. On the other hand, you have 6 green grasshoppers in dry grass and 25 green grasshoppers in green grass. So this table tells us here that the brown grasshoppers prefer the dry grass, and the green grasshoppers prefer the green grass. Okay, so the question asks, which of the following is the best explanation for these observations? Okay, so the answer here would be C. Camouflaging protects grasshoppers from predators. Okay, that's, they try to blend in with their surroundings so that they are not easily spotted by the predators. Okay, item 49 refers to the following options, which are 4 patterns of inheritance. Let's look at what the question says. Which pattern will produce a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio of phenotypes? Okay, so usually when you have two heterozygous genotypes crossing, you get a 1 to 2-to-1 ratio. Okay, so here you have pink flowers and pink flowers. Okay, so it means that these are, although they have big R, small r here, since you get pink, that means that's a situation of incomplete dominance. Okay, incomplete dominance. So you have two pink, and once you have, it's incomplete dominance, and once you cross two pink, big R, big R, big R, small r, big R, small r, okay, you get two big R's here. Okay, then here big R and small r would give you big R, small r here, and then here small r and a big R would give you a big R, small r here, and then you would get small r in the last cell of that Punnett square. So you have one big R, or one homozygous dominant, okay, two heterozygous, and one homozygous recessive. So the homozygous dominant would be red, okay, because red and white would give you pink. The heterozygous would be pink, and the homozygous recessive would be white. So you get a one red, two pink, and one white. So red, white, and pink would be the phenotype. So you get the 1-to-2-to-1 ratio in the phenotype. So the answer for 49 would be D. Okay, D is the answer for 49. Number 50. Which of the following is not involved in natural selection? Okay, the answer here is grafting. Grafting has nothing to do with natural selection. Okay. Number 51. Which of the following correctly lists examples of pathogenic, nutritional deficiency, and physiological diseases? So diabetes is not a pathogenic disease because it's not caused by an infectious organism. Okay. AIDS is not a nutritional deficiency disease because it's not caused by a lack of a particular nutrient. It's a sexually transmitted disease. As a matter of fact, AIDS is an infectious disease. Okay. And anemia is caused by a lack of iron. Okay. Well, especially in the case of iron deficiency anemia, right? So it will be a nutritional deficiency disease. So it cannot be A. Okay. B, AIDS is a pathogenic disease, pathogenic, infectious, communicable disease. All of them are the same, right? AIDS is caused by the HIV virus. Okay, so it's an infectious or a pathogenic disease. The HIV virus would be the pathogen. Okay. Nutritional deficiency, diabetes is not nutritional deficiency, so B cannot be the answer. So A is not the answer. Okay, B is not the answer. Okay. C, anemia is not pathogenic, so C cannot be the answer. Okay, so the answer would have to be D. AIDS is pathogenic, anemia is nutritional deficiency, and diabetes is a physiological disease. So the answer for 51 is D. Number 52. Which of the following trigger the formation of blood clots? Okay, blood clots is triggered by platelets. Okay, platelets, and platelets are scientifically called thrombocytes. Okay, so the answer is A, thrombocytes. Let us look at number 53. Through which of the following can natural immunity be obtained? A, well, not A, but 1, blood transfusion, 2, breast milk, 3, the placenta. So the placenta, antibodies from mom is able to diffuse through the placenta, providing immunity to the developing fetus. And after the baby is born, through breastfeeding, the infant gets antibodies from the breast milk. But blood transfusion would be artificial immunity. Okay, that would be artificial immunity. So natural would be 2 and 3. So that's C. The answer here is C. Let's look at 54. Okay, a vector is defined as an organism that A, bites humans, B, causes disease, C, lives on other organisms, D, transmits disease organism. So the answer here is D, transmits disease organism. Item 55 refers to the following methods of disease treatment or control. So you have improved personal hygiene, isolation of persons with the disease, good sanitary practices, for example, proper garbage disposal, careful food preparation, right? So it says these methods are used in treatment and control of a disease that is infectious or pathogenic or communicable. So the answer here is B, okay, infectious. Number 56, okay, fish, snails, watergrass, and tadpoles living in a freshwater pond may be described as a community, because all these are different species living in the same, okay, the same habitat. So that would be a community. All right. Number 57, which of the following sampling methods are used to estimate the distribution of species of organisms living in soil? Okay, so the most appropriate answer here would be bottles and jars. Okay, because you can use them to make what we call pitfall traps. Okay, bury them into the soil, so as insects walk on top of the soil, they would fall into the jar. So that would be 2 and 4. Okay, sorry, 3 and 4, sorry, bottles and jars. So that's D is the answer there. Number 58, 2 soil components that are derived from the parent rock material, that would be sand and mineral salts. Okay, so that's B. Okay, so the answer for number 58 is B, sand and mineral salts. And 59, which of the following resources is renewed through natural cycles? Okay, so in other words, you're being asked which of the following are renewable resources. So that would be forests. Okay, natural gas, bauxite, and gold are non-renewable resources. And number 60, which of the following practices does not help conserve the environment? And of course, that is overgrazing. When animals overgraze in a certain area, the topsoil is exposed, and that puts the soil at risk of soil erosion. So overgrazing is not a conservative method. So 60, the answer for 60 is A. Okay, and that is the end of our video. Thank you very much. Do enjoy.